Yena bhutale swayam rupam kadamayam dadati swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvashe Shunyavadi Pashatade Shatarane Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripal Sindhubhye cha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you, and I'll switch to Bhagavatam. So Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayadudire Srinivata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridayantasta Padrani Vednuti Surtsatam Ashtaprayashu Padreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Vijay Lakshmi Mataji, for joining us all the way from New York. It's very kind of you. So we're, as we were discussing, we're in Canto 1, which is here, and then we're in Chapter 12, the birth of Emperor Parikshit. And previous week, verse 14 was spoken about how Maharaj Yudhishthir observed the birth of Parikshit Maharaj. And so we'll cover 15 and 16. 15 doesn't have a purport, so the usual etiquette is to go to the next verse and that one that Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas are given a purport for, and speak on that one in particular. So I'll read this one and then I'll read the next one, and maybe we can repeat the next one together, if that's okay. Tamuchur brahmanastushta rajana prashya anvitam esahi asmin prajatantu uranam Bharava Sinam unto him Uchu addressed Brahmana, the learned Brahmanas, Tushta, very much satisfied, Rajanam, unto the king, Prasharaya, Anvitam, very much obliging, Eshaha, this, he, certainly, Asmin, in the chain of Prajatantu, descending line, Puranam of the Purus, Bharava Rishabha, the chief among the Purus. Translation by Dharanga Srila Prabhupada. The learned Brahmanas, who were very satisfied with the charities of the king, addressed him as the chief amongst the Purus and informed him that his son was certainly in the line of descent from the Purus. So who are the, I'll make this a little bit interactive, nothing complicated. So who are the Brahmanas speaking to? So in Bhagavatam, sometimes there's multiple parallel lines of conversation going on and narration of events. So something that I found helps us to kind of keep track of who's speaking to whom. So who are the Brahmanas speaking to?
Yudhishthira Maharaj.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. So now, Mataji, since you kindly spoke, do you feel that Maharaj Yudhishthira did not know that Parikshit Maharaj is, a descendant of the Pandavas dynasty?
Of course, he knows.
Yes.
As per my understanding goes, Prabhu, please correct me. But he knows. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, of course he knows. He's he's in the lineage. So what is he trying to ascertain from the Brahmanas about Maharaj Parikshit?
He just wanted blessings for the child, for the Brahmanas.
Yes, that's definitely very important. That's true. But why do you think he wants to know whether he's in the line of descent from the Purus?
Because he is a son of Arjuna's son.
Yes.
He's the only heir left. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Mataji, for kindly expanding. What he's trying to find, that is true. But what he's trying to find out is if Maharaj Parikshit, by the Brahmana saying he's certainly in the line of descent of the Purus, meaning he's in the, so Puru, it was the son of Yayati. And then through Puru came the subsequent, Kuru dynasty. So by them saying he's in the line of Puru, it's talking about, the dynasty of Puru Vamsha. And the idea here is what's being subtly conveyed is that he's wanting to know, Maharaj Yudhishthira, whether Parikshit Maharaj will be exactly like the great kings in that very famous dynasty of Puru, the Kuru dynasty. So that's indirectly what the Brahmanas are taught. He's wanting confirmation from the Brahmanas that will this child be of similar quality as his great forefathers. And the Brahmanas later on in this chapter will say that indeed Maharaj Parikshit will have the great qualities and these that all your family lineage had and became famous for, by ruling the planet so mercifully. And they'll later on say that this child, Parikshit Maharaj, would become famous like your forefathers. And as the opportunity or the situation arises, these qualities will manifest in Parikshit Maharaj. So indirectly, what the Brahmanas will say is that actually your dynasty, the great personalities in your dynasty are actually not going to be equal to Parikshit Maharaj, because he will have the qualities of all of them. And that this is what we've observed by observing his, astrological charts and etc. So Maharaj Yudhishthira is wanting reassurance that by we're honoring the Brahmanas and questioning them, that will this child be a suitable king in the lineage of our family? And they're saying actually he will be, and he is, and that and later on they'll say that he will actually be more so, because he won't just have the qualities of one person in your family lineage, he will have the qualities of all of them, the sum total as the occasion arises. So that was my takeaway from this verse, because the immediate question here is, of course, Maharaj Yudhishthira knows that Parikshit, like Radha Kunmata, he said that Parikshit is in the line in their family lineage by biological, but he's looking at the transcendental qualities of his family. Okay, so we'll jump to the next one. Any questions or comments on that one?
I have a question, Prabhuji. You want me to wait until the end of the class, or you want me to ask me?
Do you think it's a quick one or some more involved?
I don't know. It's a quick one, Prabhu. Definitely it's a quick one, Prabhuji.
Okay, go ahead.
So here it is talking about the Puru dynasty, right? Purus.
Yes.
And Puru is one of the sons of Yayati, the last son of the Yayati, right?
Yes, correct.
So, but the first son is Yadu, right? So Yadu was not willing to accept the old age from his father for exchange, and Puru accepted it finally, right, Prabhu?
Yes.
So, then they got cursed, right? Yayati cursed that no one can be the king in the Edu dynasty or something like that.
Yes.
So Edu dynasty belongs to Krishna, Lord Krishna, right? And then Purus are coming another dynasty. So that means that Yayati's 5 sons belong to 5 dynasties. How do we understand, Prabhu?
Yeah, I've seen family lineages of that have been created. Devotees have created for the descendants of Yayati, and it's pretty complex. And I would have to create the chart and show you the chart of the connections. And I haven't prepared that today. I mean, simplistically, I just wanted to focus on the topic of why this verse actually came to play. So I can share with you separately a chart of the Yayatis, the family lineage, if that's okay.
Sure, Prabhu, no problem. Sure, thank you.
Thank you for asking that. There's all sorts of, if you look at the Bhagavatam family tree, there are all sorts of interconnections and multiple layers that were over universal time. So it's pretty wonderful. We just, in our Bhagavatam group, read chapter 3 over the course of 1 year of Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1. And it was amazing to see how the family trees are linked. Okay, so this is the verse we'll try to speak more on, because Srila Prabhupada kindly gives a very amazing purport. Okay, so I'll read this one thrice, and then those of you that want to repeat can repeat. So, Devena apragatena shukle shamastam upayashum rato anugra hartaya Vishnunan prabha Vishnunan Devin aparati gatena shukle samastam peyashu rato avo anugra hartaya Vishnunan prabha Vishnunan Devin aprati gatena shukle samastam peyashu rato avo anugra hartaya Vishnunam Prabha Vishnunam. Somebody who's more expert at chanting these beautiful verses can, and anybody else who wants to chant, please do so. Hare Krishna. Sure, please.
Daivena pratighatena shukte samsatam upeyushi rato vanugraharthaya Vishnuna prabha Vishnuna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Daivena pratighatena sukle samstham upeyushi rato anugrahartaya Vishnuna prabha Vishnuna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mother. Anybody else?
Daivena pratighatena shukle samstamupeyushi rato vo anugra arthaya vishnuna prabha vishnuna.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay, if somebody else wants to chant, they can, but I'll just move forward for the sake of time, if I may. So, Daivena, by supernatural power, apratighatena, by what is irresistible, shukle, unto the pure, samstam, destruction, upeyushu, having been enforced, rataha, restored, va, for you, anugraha arthaya, for the sake of obliging, Vishnuna, by the all-pervasive Lord, Prabha Vishnuna, by the all-powerful. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The Brahmana said, the spotless sun has been restored by the all-powerful and all-pervasive Lord Vishnu, the personality of Godhead, in order to oblige you. He was saved when he was doomed to be destroyed by an irresistible supernatural weapon. Let's go over the purport. It's a long purport, so we can kind of read it and follow along. The child Parikshit was saved by the all-powerful and all-pervasive Lord Vishnu, open parentheses, Lord Krishna, for two reasons. The first reason is that the child in the womb of his mother was spotless due to his being a pure devotee of the Lord. The second reason is that the child was the only surviving male descendant of Puru, highest forefather of the virtuous King Yudhishthira. The Lord wants to continue the line of pious kings to rule over the earth as his representatives for the actual progress of a peaceful and prosperous life. After the battle of Kurukshetra, even up to the next generation, Maharaj Yudhishthira was annihilated, and there were none who could generate another son in the great royal family. Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Abhimanyu, was the only surviving heir apparent in the family, and by the irresistible supernatural Brahmastra weapon of Ashwatthama, he was forced to be annihilated. Lord Krishna is herein described as Vishnu, and this is also significant. Lord Krishna, the original personality of Godhead, does the work of protection and annihilation in his capacity of Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is a plenary expansion of Lord Krishna. The all-pervasive activities of the Lord are executed by him in his Vishnu feature. Child Parikshit is described here as spotlessly white because he's an unalloyed devotee of the Lord. Such unalloyed devotees of the Lord appear on the earth just to execute the mission of the Lord. The Lord desires the conditioned souls hovering in the material creation to be reclaimed to go back home, back to Godhead. And thus he helps them by preparing the transcendental literature like the Vedas, by sending missionaries of saints and sadhus, sages, by deputing his representative, the spiritual master. Such transcendental literatures, missionaries, and representatives of the Lord are spotlessly white because the contamination of material qualities cannot even touch them. They're always protected by the Lord when they're threatened with annihilation. Such foolish threats are made by gross materialists. The Brahmastra, which was thrown by Ashwatthama at the child Parikshit, was certainly supernaturally powerful, and nothing of the material world could resist its force of penetration. But the all-powerful Lord, who is present everywhere, within and without, could counteract it by his all-powerful potency, just to save a bona fide servant of the Lord and descendant of another devotee, Maharaj Yudhishthira, who was always obliged by the Lord by his causeless mercy. So once again, Devina prakatena shukle samstam peyushi rato va anugra artaya vishnuna prabha vishnuna. So the Brahmana said the spotless sun has been restored by the all-powerful and all-pervasive Lord Vishnu. the personality of Godhead in order to oblige you. He was saved when he was doomed to be destroyed by irresistible supernatural weapon. So kind of, Srila Prabhupada has very nicely given the Devanagari and the translation and the transliteration and then the synonyms and the translation. So in the process of reading Shastra word by word and then putting the sentences together and then resolving complexities and trying to explore the unique qualities that are being described within a verse are all important points. So here we can go through that, kind of connecting the words. That's, of course, as you all know, called Anvaya, forming a sentence, a meaningful sentence by showing connections. So, Daivana Apragatena. So, Srila Prabhupada translates Daivana as by supernatural power, and Apratikhetena by what is irresistible. So what's being referred here is the irresistible is referencing the supernatural, the non-material Brahmastra weapon that Ashwatthama has put forward. And it's irresistible in the sense that nothing in the material world can resist its force. So that's what this first line is referencing, the irresistible weapon that Ashwatthama discharged, the Brahmastra. Shukle samstam upayeshu. So Shukle is here translated as pure, but also can be translated as, Srila Prabhupada points out, like spotlessly white, meaning without any blemish. And who's being referenced here? Parikshit Maharaj as being Shukla, because he is a pure devotee of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada expands greatly on how such pure devotees cannot be influenced by the material modes. So such a pure devotee, samstam, he was put into a situation where he would be annihilated. So next line, Rata va anugraha artaya. This is a really wonderful line. So Rata, restored, va, for you, anugraha artaya, for the sake of obliging. So I'm going to speak at length about anugraha artaya, or as much as I can. So the idea here is that Shukla, Maharaj Parikshit, encountering the irresistible weapon of Ashwatthama, was being forced to be destroyed. And another name that's used oftentimes for Maharaj Parikshit is Vishnu Rata, that individual who was protected by Lord Vishnu. So it kind of goes Rata here, and then this word, you'll see in the subsequent verses, he'll be referred to as Vishnu Rata. So the idea here is, like Srila Prabhupada explains, and I'll discuss this a little bit, that Lord Vishnu is protecting, it's specifically Lord Vishnu who is protecting Parikshit Maharaj, and it's specifically him who counteracted the Brahmastra because he's protecting somebody who's a pure devotee, Shukla. Va anugraha artaya. So here, Srila Prabhupada translates anugraha artaya, for the sake of obliging. So if one looks up in the Veda base how that term is used, it is used like this also, but most often it means an act of special mercy. Like, for example, Narad Muni, seeing the twin Arjun trees, curses them. So Bhagavatam describes in chapter 10, canto 10, that, which is the deliverance of the twin Arjun trees, that calls this act anugraha artaya, that it was an act of special mercy by Narad Muni. Why? Because he was going to enable them, these twin trees, to receive the darshan, the vision of Lord Krishna, in its most wonderful, rare form as Bhagavata, Lord Damodar. So, like I said, I will try to get into this a little bit more. But the idea is that this was an act of special mercy towards Maharaj Yudhishthir, as well as Parikshit Maharaj. And Srila Prabhupada here calls it obliging, but elsewhere Srila Prabhupada has also translated, and the Acharyas have translated this as an act of mercy to you, Maharaj Yudhishthir, by Lord Vishnu. Okay, so that's like the kind of the connections that are coming through here. The idea being a pure devotee, Maharaj Parikshit, was forced into a state of peril, destruction, due to the unrelenting, unstoppable, irresistible weapon of Ashwatthama. But Lord Vishnu extended protection to him, and then this was an act of special mercy. So that's the connection between the words. I hope that makes some level of sense. So I wanted to, there are many points Srila Prabhupada focuses on, but I wanted to, and his purport is very clear. So I wanted to focus on this idea of Srila Prabhupada talks about he is saved by all-powerful, all-pervasive Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu. So, how do we understand this? We understand that Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan, the original Supreme Personality Godhead. And we know Krishna himself was present with the Pandavas and was protecting them. So here, the idea is that, yes, it's true that everything comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Being, Lord Krishna. Yet, he, as he describes in Bhagavad Gita and in Bhagavatam, he is aloof from the material world because he is engaged in his eternal pastimes of bliss with his dear most pure devotees in the spiritual world. So in the process of creating the material universe, the Supreme Lord expands himself into various forms. And they're not different from him, yet they will oftentimes exhibit differences in form and in potency. So we know he first expands, his first expansion is as Balaramji, or Baladev, who is oftentimes considered Krishna's second body and brother. So Balaramji assists Lord Krishna's in many pastimes, both in spiritual and in the material realm. And then Balaramji expands into 4 different forms that are involved in the material realm. First is Karanadaksha Vishnu, also called Mahavishnu, and next is Garbhadaksha Vishnu, and finally it's Sharadaksha Vishnu, and then also as Shesh or Sheshnag or Ananta. So Karanadaksha Vishnu is called Mahavishnu, and Bhagavatam very nicely describes in the beginning of in Canto 1, Chapter 3, that he is the Lord of time, cause and effect, the mind, the ego, the 5 elements, the gunas, and the universal form. So the idea is that there's absolute reality, or the absolute truth. And then the absolute truth has a relationship with the material world and the living beings that inhabit the material world. And that relationship is manifested through Mahavishnu. So, because as he breathes out, innumerable universes are produced, and as he inhales, they're destroyed. So he's oftentimes, these 3 forms of Mahavishnu, Daksha Vishnu, Garbhadaksha Vishnu, and Shori Daksha Vishnu are referred to as the super souls or the souls. So, but Mahavishnu is the original super soul of all the universe and the master. Yet, even though he's doing the act of creating, he never departs from his spiritual realm. That is his potency. And then the second expansion is Garbhadaksha Vishnu. And Bhagavatam states, if we go into it here, that the second form is the source of the incarnations from the universe. And elsewhere on expansions, he's also just called Hari. So Garbhadaksha Vishnu is called Hari as well. And then after that comes Shiradaksha Vishnu. And he's the source and the Paramatma, the super soul in all living beings. And he's the connection of all material objects, both living beings and non-living beings, like stones and other things. So the idea here is that what is being talked about in the verse, that we read here that's what Srila Prabhupada is talking about here. He says Lord Krishna is described here as Vishnu. This is significant, but Lord Krishna does the work of protection and alleviation in the capacity of Lord Vishnu. So I think the most important thing that I understood from this description is that Krishna is present everywhere in the infinity of creation. And yet he's also enjoying his loving relationships with devotees, either in his original form in the spiritual world or in one of his expansions, in this case, Lord Vishnu. Because what this is showing, what Bhagavatam, when it talks about creation and the material world, is showing that the material world is connected to Bhagavan, Swayam Bhagavan Krishna. Because Bhagavatam continuously shows us that in so many ways, Krishna is involved in our material journey or our material situation, that never for a moment are we abandoned in this material world. Never for a moment are we without Krishna, although it may appear to be. Because our knowledge of Bhagavan, Krishna, becomes covered and we forget about its existence. So, because Bhagavatam has some complex descriptions of creation, and I think the idea there is to understand that to know material creation and to know the universe is to know that each and every atom is but a reflection of Bhagavan's power and potency and opulence. So that was the way I understood this, where Srila Prabhupada is talking about how Lord Krishna is the original person of Godhead, but he does the work of protection and creation in the material world in his capacity of Lord Krishna. So being aloof yet being connected is an amazing quality that Lord Krishna has. And Srila Prabhupada explains this in here. So that was one point I wanted to focus on. And then the other point I want to focus on, this is word anugraha artaya. So if you do a Veda-based search for that, you'll show that it comes up as to show favor for the purpose of giving special mercy. And Srila Prabhupada here translated as the personality Godhead in order to oblige you. Other acharyas say in order to give special mercy to Maharaj Yudhishthira, Lord Krishna is doing, that the Supreme Personality Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is doing this. So among the 10 subjects in the Bhagavatam, one of them is called Poshana. And Poshana means, in Sanskrit or in English, nourishing, cherishing, fostering, supporting, and maintaining. And in particular, in Bhagavatam, Poshana is referring to the Lord's special care and protection of his devotees. So, Anugraha Artaya is Poshana. Jiva Goswami talks about this, and he says that Poshana actually ultimately means Priti, meaning the act, Lord's mercy of giving prema bhakti, or enlivening prema bhakti within his pure devotee. Now, something that oftentimes comes up is this idea of kind of like favoritism or partiality. So I wanted to explore that. Okay, Lord is giving special mercy. Why only to him? Why not to everybody? How is he neutral? How is he the Lord of everybody? So Krishna says, in this famous verse, Namost aham sarva bhuteshu namo devesha astina priya ye bhajanti tumam bhaktiya maite te subchapiya. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion as a friend is in me, and I am also a friend to him. So, this kind of sounds like, okay, I'm neutral, but I'm also a friend to one who's my devotee. So, this sounds a little kind of paradoxical. So whenever we encounter kind of like sometimes paradoxical terms, we have to look at, that which unites it. So Srila Prabhupada very nicely says, this is not discrimination, it is natural. Any man in the material world may be very charitably disposed, yet he has a special interest in his own children. The Lord claims that every living entity in whatever form is his son, and so he provides everyone with a generous supply of the necessities of life. He's just like a cloud which pours rain all over, regardless of whether it falls on rock or land or water. But for his devotees, he gives specific attention. Such devotees are mentioned here. They're always in Krishna consciousness, and therefore they're always transcendently situated in Krishna. So moving on, let me find this. Srila Prabhupada says, this is the manifestation of the Lord's special mercy. This is Poshana or Anugraha Artaya, as in the current verse. So Srila Prabhupada in other sections, like in Chaitanya Charitamrita, speaks about how gives the example of a king maintaining his kingdom and the subjects, but yet he gives special attention to members of his family. So he says in that way, the pure devotees are like the direct family of Bhagwan, and because they're completely surrendered to him. So he gives anugraha arthaya poshana specifically to them. So this seeming favoritism is actually, Bhagwan's impartiality. It makes sense when we look at this verse. To understand this verse, it requires understanding this famous verse, Yetamam papadyante. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects. So that explains 9.29, because since Krishna's devotees are souls surrendered to him, then they're eligible to receive anugraha arthaya or poshana, that special mercy, because how Lord reciprocates with each of us is determined by what we give to our relationship to Bhagwan. Right? Here's Lord Krishna repeats this again in 12:6-7. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotion service, all is meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Parth, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. Right? So this is this anugraha arthaya that is being, discussed in the verse, this verse here, this potional aspect. So ultimately, what is Krishna protecting? What is Krishna protecting? What is true anugraha arthaya? Is it the protection from the Brahmastra, this fearful nuclear weapon, as Srila Prabhupada sometimes calls it? Ultimately, Bhagavan Shri Krishna is protecting a devotee's relationship with him. Why? Because the Atma's only property is that relationship. Whatever is needed or favorable for helping or nurturing that connection, Krishna provides and preserves. Krishna will certainly protect the physical body of the devotee, their health, their family members, possessions, all those sorts of things, their endeavors. Because they're the instruments because for a pure devotee or a serious devotee, they're instruments by which one serves Bhagavan and by which one cultivates devotion to Bhagavan. One's family, one's possessions, one's endeavors, they're means by which one can serve Bhagavan. And so that's what Krishna is protecting, the relationship between us and Bhagavan, because that is the only fundamental quality of an Atma. So for us, how do we see this? Mahayudhishthira suffered greatly seeing that death and destruction as a result of the battle of Kurukshetra. So, and he's certainly a very mature, elevated, pure devotee. So a mature devotee learns to see how every situation is actually Krishna's protection for them, for him or her. Lord Krishna protected Gajendra from the mortal distress of an crocodile biting his leg. But what was he attracted by? What brought out Lord Krishna's protection there? Was it the fact that he was being bit, Gajendra was being bit by a crocodile? No, Jiva Goswami explains that that wasn't it. What drew Lord Krishna's attention is the pure bhakti that Gajendra demonstrated at the conclusion of that pastime is what actually drew, because Bhagwan, being everywhere and omniscient and omnipotent, could easily see that Gajendra is in the jaws of a crocodile for thousands and thousands of years and was materially suffering. But Lord was attracted by Gajendra's bhakti because the innermost heart of Lord Krishna is Uttama Bhakti. And he was attracted by Uttama Bhakti on the part of Gajendra. And he blessed, his most dear friend Sudama with fabulous opulence. Not because of Sudama's material impoverishment, but because of Sudama's bhakti. Uttama Bhakti attracted that aspect of the Antaranga Shakti that is the nature of Lord Krishna. Both Jiva Goswami and Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explained that inner heart of Lord Krishna, or the Sarupa of Krishna, the real internal Antaranga Shakti is actually not different from Uttama Bhakti. That's what attracted Lord Krishna to Sudama, not his material distress. And in the case of Parikshit Maharaj, Lord arranged for him to be cursed to die in 7 days, as we just heard from Kanai Thakur so nicely. Even like in chapter 4 in Bhagavatam, the sadhus asked Sutta Goswami that, how could this be the case that Parikshit Maharaj was in the prime of his health and youthful vigor and kingly protection? How could this be? But in either case, Bhagavan Krishna is always doing anugraha, arthaya, and poshna for his genuine, sincere, and serious devotees. Although perhaps in different manners. And in each case, the Bhagavatam describes the devotee was most grateful. Like Prabhuji described over the last 2 days, Parikshit Maharaj was cursed. He put a snake around Shamika Rishi and Shringi cursed him to die. It's like an out of proportion response to the son of the Rishi feeling that his father was insulted. Okay, your father was insulted, but do you go and curse somebody to basically die? But this wasn't in Bhagavatam. You won't see curse, counter curse, that kind of thing. The Bhagavatam's not about material behavior. It's about transcendental behavior. And so Parikshit Maharaj was grateful for this because Srila Prabhupada said Parikshit Maharaj should be grateful because he received a 7 days notice. Most people do not get that kind of notice that they're going to leave this body, and so he could be fully absorbed. And Parikshit Maharaj's essential question to the sages that were gathered at the Ganges and to Shukadeva Goswami is, how should one live and how should one prepare for death? And the answer was the same, to constantly hear about and glorify the Supreme Personality of Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because Shukadeva Goswami will explain in Canto 2 that Bhagavan is the well-wisher of everyone. And he knows exactly what is ultimately for our good, and he provides just that. That is his anugraha arthaya. Nor is he indifferent to the protection of his devotees. So he will maintain them in a unique, special way that ultimately protects the relationship of that devotee with Bhagwan, because that's the only quality of the Atma. Atma doesn't have any other quality. Just like a ray of the sun may penetrate into our planet's atmosphere, but it retains that connection with its source. And that's why, as long as it retains it, that's why it'll have that illuminating power. Something wonderful that Sri Ramanujacharya says is that the sun, situated from millions of miles away, can penetrate through the darkest regions of the universe and illuminate all material objects, but has no ability to illuminate the internal heart. Only Lord Krishna, in the form of Shabda Praman or the Vedas, can do so. So that is, Shastra is also Anugraha Arthaya, or Poshna, special mercy of Bhagavan for us. So it's 9 o'clock. I'll stop. There's more things that I'm sure that you all are contemplating. So the idea here is that this irresistible weapon was released and threatened a pure devotee, Maharaj Parikshit, who was ultimately he was protected by Lord Vishnu, demonstrating Krishna's connection with everything that happens in the material world as an act of anugraha arthaya for Maharaj Yudhishthira, and of course for Parikshit Maharaj. Thank you very much. As Divine Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any comments, questions, reflections?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dhanyavad Pranam Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the nice explanations as always. Very nice. I like the way you connected the word Anugrahaya Adhaya and explanation, how the Lord is truly obliged. I feel truly obliged to do favors for his devotees.
Yeah.
Who are actually surrendered to him and who are always Krishna consciousness, and how actually you connected this Anugrahaya Adhaya from this verse to the different verses from Bhagavad Gita. Very nicely it was connected, Prabhu, and it helped us, especially me, to understand what actually mean by Anugraha Ardhaya today. The mercy of the Lord we can understand. So thank you so much, Prabhu, for nicely explaining that word and focusing on that and explaining that. I really liked it. And also another point I like this today's your explanations. The first sentence of the purport, like how the Lord is all powerful and all pervasive Vishnu. And you quoted, the Srimad Bhagavatam verses from the 3rd canto about the different Vishnus, how he carries on his duties, in Vishnu form, even though he's Krishna, but, while performing the duties of creation, maintenance, and all, and entering into that, and how he takes the form, in his Vishnu form, how he does actually all these, wonderful acts through his Vishnu potency. So thank you so much, Prabhuji. I really liked it. Thank you for enlightening us, your sweet lectures. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you for summarizing more concisely than I did. As always, thank you very much. Any corrections, comments, additions that anybody else would like to share?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna,
participating. Hare Krishna.
on anugraha and protection and mercy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, if any questions or comments, if none, then we can end.
Prabhuji, I just want to add one more thing. The Poshana, right? You have said that is one of the subject matters, 10 subject matters of, Srimad Bhagavatam. That also added a beauty to your explanation today. So yeah, how Lord actually, maintains, protects the devotees. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. How he maintains.
Yes. I was reading in Bhagavad Sandarbha that Poshna, Jiva Goswami says, it specifically refers to the Lord's very special mercy of giving prema to his devotee. He calls it priti. Jiva Goswami interchanges the words prema and priti. Yeah, so pure love of Lord for Bhagavan is the main thing that the Bhagavatam is giving to us. Right. All the other subject matters are assist. The Ashraya, the Ashrita, the Purana speaks about is ultimately, the shelter of Lord Krishna through prema. That's portion.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you. Okay, I think we can wrap up. I know everybody's busy. It's a busy, long day. So thank you very much. Vancha kalpa thrubhyacha kriposindhavyevacha patitinam pavanave vaishnavyo namo namah. Dhanraj Prabhu, I'm sorry that there was any element of confusion in
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for the class.
Thank you. Okay. Hare Krishna. Narottam Das Prabhu, thank you for facilitating. Radhakund Mataji, thank you for joining.
Thank you so much.
Vijay Lakshmi, thank you. Pune Mataji, Neil Mataji. Thai Prabhu, Dhanraj Prabhu, thank you for joining. Vijay Lakshmi Mataji, thank you for joining from all the way from New York. That's very wonderful. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you.
Take care.